Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Thank you for being here. This is going to be my full guide for how to play Eliza in Tekken 7 Season 2. And making this is a little bit of a daunting task. I made a couple of these longer ones before, but mainly on pretty basic characters. In this one I'm going to try and tackle one of the most advanced characters in the game. Not everybody will agree with that, but I do think you need to manipulate her in very specific ways with your hands, and I would make some sort of joke about how to touch her nipples right here, but we have a lot to talk about, so let's just jump into the actual material. Now, I've been playing Eliza since January of last year, but I dropped her multiple times and then only picked her up recently again, taught myself the Season 2 stuff, and then she became one of my most powerful characters, and she's currently my favorite character to play in the entire game. I just want to mention her history briefly because it's part of what makes her so special. There was a weird little Tekken game in between Tekken Tag 2 and Tekken 7 called Tekken Revolution, and this is conjecture on my part, but I think it was sort of Namco's experiment with putting 2D character design in a Tekken environment, and so to ease the player into that, they posted a poll where the community could decide what should be the first Street Fighter-esque character in Tekken. One of the options in the poll was a sexy female vampire that ended up winning, and so we got Eliza in the game. And I think it's kind of beautiful how we in the community had a small part in actually creating this character and bringing her to the game. She's kind of underused at the moment compared to the other two 2D characters, Geese and Akuma, and I think that's mainly because she's considered to be slightly less high tier than them, but in my opinion she's both more fun and cooler than both of them put together. So these are my instructions for how to use the character, but also my recommendation that you do, and my petition to have her carried forward into many future versions of Tekken because she's a true Tekken original and a very special character. I will put time codes in the description because this will probably be a longer video, and also if I need to make any corrections I will put them down there, so check that out. But before we jump into the move list, I also just want to say thank you so much for being here and for letting me create all these videos over the last 2 years. It's been a very special journey for me, and I still wake up in the morning and I'm amazed that I have a Tekken YouTube channel that people actually come to. Interacting with you guys in the comments is a lot of fun. You're hilarious for the most part and sometimes extremely useful, and I love the interaction, so thank you so much for that. I really hope you enjoy this. I really hope you try Eliza out, and we're going to make many more videos together in the future. But for now I'm going to cut the video and jump into the first part of the move list, which is going to be block punishment. Okay, let's talk about Eliza's block punishment. Man, I'm really excited to make this for you guys right now, and right off the bat we're gonna have to talk about a move that is a little bit unorthodox, because while you do have a bog standard 1-2 for a standing 10 frame block punisher, this is kind of unimpressive, as you can see, and you're never really gonna use it if you can help it, because you have access to a different option that is not only better, it's one of the best 10 frame block punishers in Tekken, and it's 1DB2. We're going to talk more about special cancels and how they work in a different section, but for now the way you perform this is you press 1 and she does this cool little jab where she stabs you in the eye with her finger, and then during the animation of that jab you're going to press forward, let go, and press down, down, forward 2, which will allow you to cancel the recovery animation of your one jab into this powerful dragon punch, which will give you 31 damage and a knockdown, which is already amazing. And if you have just the right amount of distance to the wall, it can even allow you for full wall splats and wall combos, so it's premium stuff. Now this is something that I recommend you practice when you're new to the character if you're not familiar with this kind of input. Just standing in practice mode and doing one jab DP2 a lot, because the cancel here is not only important, it will ingrain, you know, the block punch in your muscle memory. It also allows you to sort of get a feel for how these special cancels work, and it's a little bit hard in the beginning, but definitely easy enough that you can teach yourself how to do this with pretty much 100% consistency, and that will allow you to get a feel for how that Dragon Punch 2 cancel should be done, and it happens to be like the most powerful and important special that you cancel into with the character. But Really great stuff, and it can become even more powerful if you happen to have 2 bars of blood meter. So if you look at the bottom left of the screen, that's Eliza's blood meter. It has these cool little bats that fly around it when it's completely full, and when it is completely full you have access to your super. And the way the super, the Bloody Horn, works is anytime you connect with a DP2, for example when cancelling into it off of a one jab like this, it will allow you to refloat the opponent and spin them for a full combo, which is going to look like this. And that does mean that you do have the option of turning a 10 frame jab into a full combo with this character, which sounds insane. It's crazy powerful, but don't get overexcited. It's not something that's going to happen all that often in my experience. Most of the time when you're using the super to get combos, you're using it off of a clean it down 3, because a low poke is just a little bit easier to hit with guaranteed than, you know, a 10 frame block punisher. There's a lot of safety in Tekken right now, and having 2 bars and having your opponent allow you to block something that is -10 or more is kind of a rare situation, but when it does happen, you can definitely use that to turn your 10 frame block punisher into a full combo, which is amazingly fun and just really good. It's so good, in fact, that 1DP2 is really your go-to block punisher for -10, 11, 12 and 13. And so we could really leave it there for all those frames, but you do have some other stuff that I think is fun and powerful and has sort of situational use that we're going to talk about as well. So moving up to 11 for now, you get back 3-4. Back 3-4 is +3 on hit, so you get just a little bit of advantage for hitting with it. And the way this move is designed is, if you don't feel confident that you're going to be able to get the 1DP2, because you're not sure of your execution, or you don't want to mess it up, because if you do and time this wrong and get blocked, you're going to get launch punished, right? You can use the back 2-3 and just get 25 damage and something super reliable. It's -9 on block, meaning it's completely safe. The second hit is a mid, meaning that that's very safe. They're not going to duck under this, so it's sort of a cop-out move or a go-to when you block something like a hop kick and you're not completely confident in your ability to do the 1DP2 in that situation. But like I say, practice this because it is important, but this is a very decent little option that you can use, and it's not going to let you down. It's like a multi-purpose string. You use it in combos, you can delay the second hit for counter hits and all the rest of it, so it's very good. It's your friend. Like I said, -9 on block, +3 on hit. Then moving up to 13, you have 3 different options. I'm going to start with your bumsicles. When you press 1+2, Eliza will ride on a cloud of purple farts and break her opponent's ribs with her left butt cheek for 26 damage. This is a long range mid, so you can use it for some sort of minor pushback moves. It's also the fastest option you have for wall splatting the opponent when you're really close to the wall, because if I do 1DP2 here, I'm too close and I can't get the combo. There needs to be a gap for that to be a wall splatter, so it's very important for that. And it's just a good long range little punisher for lots of different situations, but it is launch punishable at -17, so be very careful about messing up when you're supposed to place it. You have 2 more options, and they are both extensions off of your 13 frame down forward 1, which is this move. So first you have down forward 1-4. This is 26 damage, so less than the bum, but it's just a little bit less risky. It's safe on block at -9 and gives you a kind of unimpressive +2 on hit. The second hit of this is duckable. In my experience, people don't tend to duck it, not because it's super hard, but because I think they just aren't used to playing against Eliza all that much. She's not a very common character. 26 damage, safe at -9, and if they do want to duck this, you have a mid extension for your final 13 frame block punisher, which is down forward 1-2. This is 29, so it's higher than the bumsicles, but it's still less than 1DP2. And this move is pretty chunky and pretty cool at 29. Problem being, it's -13 on block if you mess it up, and you also have disadvantage on hit with this move. Very important to notice. It's kind of unique, but this is actually -2 on hit, which means that while it is good for damage, if you do this and you think you still have momentum because you hit with your last move and you keep swinging, you're very susceptible to counter hits. So when you're playing against Steve, Katarina, characters like that, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Maybe collect this damage and then chill some of the time. But 29 damage is respectable, and I like this, and I use it for a mid mix-up sometimes off of dive kick pressure and stuff like that. But all the moves we've talked about so far are less powerful than 1 DP2. Now, let's move up to 14, where we will find your first block punisher that is better than 1 DP2, and it's 2-2 DP2. So this also incorporates a DP2 cancel. As you can see, this is high mid and gives you 48 damage, which is a lot higher than 31, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And this move will also, by the way, allow you to use the Bloody Horn and create a full combo, so it's crazy powerful. And sometimes when you, on the rare occasion when you will hit with a jump and move with this character, you can actually turn this into like crazy powerful combos, because this whole thing will become natural and you can go over 100 if you do the right thing. Very rare though. But this is 14, and while I do think 14 is a little bit of a no man's land for block punishment, sometimes you will block something that is specifically minus 14, and when you do, this is definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, next we need to talk about 15, and this is where you will find your first real launcher that does not require a super, a Bloody Horn, 2 bars. It does, however, require a special cancel. So I'm going to show you quickly here that Paul is set to second option all guard, so all the options I'm showing you are natural. For example, the 1-2-4 here isn't, so he's going to block that, right? The 15 frame launcher that you have is back 4 DP1, which looks like that. It's kind of a finicky input and something you have to practice, because you go from like a back input into a DP input. And we need to talk a little bit about the difference between DP2 and DP1 here to make this crystal clear. So DP2 is this move where she hits them 3 times for a chunk of damage. It's very, very fast, which means that after 1 jab, if you cancel into it, this is natural. After 2-2 and you cancel into it, it's natural. But if you do the same thing with DP1, DP1 is slower. So 1 jab into DP1 is not natural. And 2-2 into DP1 is not natural, but back 4 gives you more hit stun, which means that this is natural and will allow you for a 15 frame launch here. So DP1 is the slow, powerful launcher. DP2 is the 3-hit chunky damage move that you use for just guaranteed hits and wall carry. So back 4, while it does require a special cancel and it's a special mid and it's a weird move overall, it's actually a surprisingly long range mid. She has a big instep here and it's a very powerful move, and so I do recommend that you practice that cancel as well. By the way, all of the DPs that I've talked about so far, the DP1 and the DP2, when you cancel into them, are all launch punishable on block, so you have to be very careful and know that it's time to punish when you cancel into these moves. Moving up to 16, this is where all the sort of traditionalist Tekken players breathe a sigh of relief, because you have a bog standard, typical Tekken whiff punishing 16 frame launcher that doesn't require any special cancels. It's down forward 2-3. It's got good range, good damage. It's super reliable and super good, but it is 1 frame slower than the back 4. And so this is just, the typical Tekken launch they're going to go to, and it also works great for whiffs. You just have to be careful when you're working with your opponent's side or back, because sometimes this move will actually prove pretty inconsistent. The down 4-2 will push them away far enough that the 3 doesn't connect and you don't get your combo, and in those cases where you're trying to whiff punish somebody on the back or side, back 4 is probably a more reliable go-to. It does, however, require the execution of the DP cancel. Again, launch punishable on block. Pretty much everything you do with Eliza is, so it's just something to get used to. So that's it for standard standing block punishment, but I do also want to give you something for pushback moves like Death Fist and stuff like that. And I think your best option is a 16 frame move, which is fast for that category. And you have back 3-4 and back 3-1. They do the same 32 damage and they both wall splat, but the back 3-1 is safe, but the extension is a duckable high, whereas the back 3-4 is a mid, but it's punishable on block. So you can use both for the same damage. I think in the open, the back 3-4 is better because you get the knockdown. But when you're near the wall, both options will wall splat because the back 3-1 has that corkscrew property. So they're effectively the same move in those scenarios. So pretty cool. I like both of these. They're not long range enough that you will always be able to punish the Death Fist and, you know, pushback moves like it, but most of the time it will work. Kind of here is sort of tip range for it, and sometimes you will be pushed back so far that you will whiff, and that's tragic. But this is, you know, what you have access to with the character more or less. You can also use the bum, even though it has slightly worse range than this. So it's good, and it works when you're, you know, walking and you're hitting them on the side and stuff like that as well. Alright, that's going to be it for standing. And now I want to talk about while standing. So first of all, if Eliza can wake up here, your down jab is of course a 10 frame move that you have access to from full crouch, and when you do that you can actually cancel this naturally into a DP2 for 29, which is crazy. It's kind of you know, execution intensive, but it's something you can definitely teach yourself how to do, and that will give you 29. But if we're going to move into sort of more traditional block punishment for 11, you have the while standing 4, same as most characters. And yours is kind of unimpressive. You get 15 damage, which is low. It's minus a 5 on block, but you do get a nice plus 6 on hit. So it's decent. Kind of linear, kind of short range, kind of low damage, but it does work. And it also has those important, you know, float properties for when you want to combo people who are close to the ground. So it is a reliable little move, and I like it. And the weakness of your while standing 4 is kind of made up for by the fact that at 14 you actually have a launcher, because you have a 14 frame while standing 1, which is this where she kind of like grabs their balls with her hand kind of thing. And this is another move that will allow you for a natural cancel into DP1 for a launch. So that's pretty cool. And then if you want a more traditional sort of standard launcher for while standing, at 15 you have while standing 3, which is amazing. Really long range, really high damage, it's fast, and so when you duck stuff and when you block big lows, you can use this and it's going to do you proud every single time. I really like the animation where she kind of, you know, flies through the air. You know, Eliza's kind of magical, which is cool. So that's going to wrap up block punishment, but in sort of conclusion here, what I want to talk about is the fact that Namco are kind of teasing you with the design of the block punishment with this character, because if you have the patience to learn the execution and do the difficult thing, you know, at 10 frames you get this, which is powerful, but if you want to cop out at 11 you can do the easy option and only get this. If you want to launch the opponent at 15 you can do that off of, you know, this back 4, but if you want to cop out and do the easy thing, at 16 you get your next launcher. So you can either do the reliable and easy thing, or you can do the difficult and really good thing. And it's the same thing with her while standing launchers, right? Because you have a 14 one and a 15 one, and so with Eliza you're gonna have to practice the block punishment. It's one of the most execution intensive packages for block punishment in the game, but they've been kind enough to actually reward you with seriously powerful stuff when you do it the right way. However, I will also say that never be like embarrassed about doing the easier option. If you feel like you just want reliable damage, you don't want to mess this up, if you do have the ability to do the difficult thing, but you choose, you know, for safety reasons to go for something a little bit more reliable, that's definitely a strategy that can be solid and important when you play this character as well. So that's going to wrap up the punishment. I'm going to make a cut in the video and we're going to move on to a different section. In this section we're going to talk about all of Eliza's close-up poking tools, and this is typically the section where I would spend the most time in one of my guides, but I don't think it's going to be like that in this one, because Eliza has an already small move pool to begin with, and then she's not really known for being great at like scrapping and brawling in the close range. They've given her kind of lackluster frame data in that department, but it is very important to be aware of what you do have, because some characters out there will like try and stay on top of you and lock you in a poke war, and so you need to be able to survive those situations, make it out of the maze, and then back to a range where you would be more comfortable with the character. So let's start by talking about your one jab, which has the standardized frame data of a normal Tekken 1 jab. So 10 frames to impact, +1 on block, +8 on hit. The range is decent but not fantastic. It is special in the sense that you can special cancel off of it, but when you're just using it for a standard poke, you know, to lead jab, open up offense, interrupt the opponent, it's the friendly neighborhood one jab that you would be used to if you play a more, you know, traditional Tekken character for the most part. Next, we should talk about your Fishhook, and I love it when my character has a 12 frame mid. This is down forward 4. It's 12 frames to impact, -8 on block, +3 on hit. You tend to get +3 on hit a lot with this character. So on block you can't really, you know, continue offense, but on hit you definitely can. And so the way these 12 frame mids, these Fishhooks, tend to be applied because of that is more as interruption tools and maybe round enders. So your opponent's putting a lot of pressure on you doing strings, and you want to create breathing room and get them off you. That's when you want to apply this. Or when you're in one of those end of the round situations, you know, when a slow-mo is going to happen and the speed of your mid really matters, then this can be a very valuable tool. When you just want to stick a quick mid on somebody after a dive kick, it does its job effectively as well. So it's an important little mid to keep in mind, and the fastest one you have. Next, let's talk about back 2-3. This is kind of your Swiss Army knife string with the character. It has a lot of different applications. 11 frames to impact, so lightning fast, only 1 frame slower than your jab. -9 on block, so safe but slow on block. And then +3 on hit, so you get that same +3. This is natural, it gives you 25 damage, and the second hit is mid. So overall it's a very safe string to throw out when you just want to look for hits, you know, on the opponent. And the other really cool application of the move is that the second hit is very delayable and has counter hit launch properties. So you can get ran out of key charge right there, so let's try that again. So you can see that this allows me to get a full combo on my opponent, and the delay is really quite massive. So if you're going to throw this out every once in a while, look for a little, you know, whiff punish, or, you know, a little bit of stray damage for an interruption. And then every once in a while, you know, you delay that a 3 extension, and you can get a full counter hit combo on an impatient opponent. So it's very good for that. It's also good for an 11 frame block punisher, and it's a combo filler as well. So it's a very important sort of go-to for a lot of situations with the character. And the frame data -9 and +3. Next, let's talk about down forward 1 and its extensions. This is an important move for me. If you watch my videos, you know I love down forward 1. It's my favorite notation, and I tend to play a lot of characters who have like solid 13 frame stuff for their down forward 1. And Eliza actually does. It's not super good in the frame data, but it has surprisingly good range. Like, it will hit from out here, which is pretty cool. It has kind of a flimsy animation, you know, but I think Eliza is not really meant to be a character who, like, you know, punches her opponent with her fists. She's more about stabbing them or doing magical stuff, or, you know, like biting them in the neck. So this has a little bit of an awkward girl punch animation, but it is reliable. It's +3 on hit, -3 on block, so that's easy to remember. And it does its job admirably for a little mid poke. Kind of a high hitbox though. And then you have 2 extensions. The 4, this is natural, 26 damage, but the second hit is a duckable high. Tends not to get ducked that often. So this is actually a very good little poke string. And then the other one, if they are going to duck, you have a mid extension down for 1-2. This is 29, but it's -13 on block, so very punishable. And it's also -2 on hit, so disadvantage on hit. Unique, rare, but Eliza, like I say, is not really supposed to be able to keep up with a character like Law or Katarina when she's up here, and so this is to sort of hammer that home. Be careful when you're playing against counter hit specialists when you're applying this, but this string, the down forward one and its extensions, is kind of my go-to when I'm trying to mix, you know, lows with mids. So if I'm at the wall like I am right now, and I have at least one meter bar, my opponent is really scared of this move. Sorry, not that move. This move. This move is an unseeable, it's the down 3 and cancel into a quarter circle back 1+2 by the way, which is an unseeable 40 damage wall splat low, so it's a massive move to be super scared of if you're the opponent. And so when they're looking for this, you have a golden opportunity to mix in mids, and what I typically do is this down forward 1 or a down forward 1-4, maybe the 1 if I'm looking for a little bit more damage. But this string is a good, reliable little sort of part of your typical low-mid mix-up when you're trying to mix mids and lows. And it's not amazing, but it does its job, and you do get some damage. And this is safe, so I would say use this for the most part, unless you're getting ducked. But yeah, this is a situation where people are going to be very scared of Eliza, and you tend to get low parried a lot when you're at the wall with her, because this move is so prolific. Next, let's talk about forward 3. Forward 3 is not a poke that I use a whole lot, but I watched some other advanced Eliza players like Chanel, and he uses this a lot, and you know, he's super good, maybe the best in the world with the character, so it's an indication that there is some serious worth to this move, and so I'm trying to sort of experiment with it and see what uses it might have. But it's long range, it's 18 frames to impact, so it's on the slow side, not really amazing when you're super close, and if you're like way out here, you're typically trying to do, you know, stuff like that, and maybe a bloody claw, but sort of in between. Because it has a big instep, because it has high crush during the instep, it can be very useful. It's -9 on block, ±0 on hit, and on counter hit it gives you this sort of weird pseudo knockdown thing. So it does have some added benefit with the counter hit, but it's a move that I think you should at least be aware of, because it does seem to have some serious application, although I don't really tend to use it all that much. The last move I want to talk about in this section is the back 1 and its extensions, and this string is very important, and it's sort of important to understand exactly how it works. So the full string is back 1, 2, 4, and you've seen it, it's a famous Eliza string. The way this works is that the first hit is a 14 frame, very reliable, long range, high crushing mid, and it's a counter hit launcher. It makes the extension natural. You see, typically it's not natural. If you do have the counter hit, it does become natural, and you get a 28 damage counter hit launch off of a 14 frame mid, which is actually extremely good and fast. So it's very cool for that. But the second hit on block is punishable, and then the fourth hit, this kicking attack, is also punishable on block, but it's also walkable to the side, and if they step this or walk this to the side, they can launch you for doing this. So you need to be aware that you take a risk when you apply this move, and then you need to mix your options. So for the most part, I do back 1-2 by itself, looking for that counter hit launch, you know, trying to go under something, trying to catch them slipping, and then I get a big combo. And typically the opponent will not punish this, and the reason they don't want to punish it is that they're scared of the 4 extension, right? They want to see if they're really good, if they are aware of the fact that they can step and launch it. They're trying to see, is he going to do it? Am I going to have the opportunity to step here? Or maybe they're just going to stand around, wait for the final hit, try and block and punish that. So you typically get away with doing this, these first 2 hits, and then every once in a while you want to finish the string, because the opponent is going to try and punish the first 2 hits. So you do the first 2, they swing, and then you hit them with the kick coming down. 99% of the time when people swing in between the second and third hit of this string, they do a jab, and what will happen when they do that is that the jab will trade with this kick, and that's a very favorable trade for you, because you're getting hit with a jab in the air, which is not a lot of damage, but they're getting hit with a counter hit move that is going to do 27 damage. So it's a very favorable trade for you. So while it might look like, you know, you clashed, and it was an even situation. Trading when you come down with this kick from above here is actually a very good situation for you, and it's important to note that it will actually, even though it looks like a spike move, also wall splat at the wall. So it has a lot of uses, but it also comes with a lot of built-in risks, and it's important to stay on your toes, try and determine whether or not your opponent has the reaction time and the knowledge to step it properly, and then, you know, keep them guessing when you're applying it. But just the first two hits by themselves, you know, 14 frame reliable long range mid counter hit launcher, amazing stuff. So very powerful, and one of the few really high damage launchers that you have with the character. So I think that's going to wrap it up for like standard pokes and stuff. And I know this was a small section. There are many, many more moves that we need to talk about, but I don't really think they belong here. So I'm going to make a cut in the video, and we're going to talk about all the other really important moves that Eliza has that don't necessarily fit into the, you know, close-up poke category. So I'll see you guys after the cut. Let's talk about Eliza's lows. You've got down 3 and down 4. They're both launch punishable, and that's it. Goodbye. Honestly though, while you only have two sort of normal lows with the character, they're both pretty interesting, so I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about them. The first thing to note about Eliza's lows is that you have access to the exact same moves, whether you're standing or crouching. So your standing down 4 and your full crouch down 4 are the exact same move. That's pretty weird. I'm guessing it's common in like 2D fighting games, but for a Tekken character it's really quite strange. And it's true of your down 4 as well as your down 3 and your down jabs, by the way. Now let's talk about the actual lows themselves. I'm going to start with down 3. In terms of the frame data, it's 15 frames to impact, which is really, really fast for a low. It's lightning quick and completely unseeable, so that's cool. But apart from that, the frame data isn't very good because it's minus 16 on block, meaning it's launch punishable by a majority of the cast, and then it's minus 5 on hit. And you can actually see that minus 5 if you look at the two characters on the screen. When I hit with this move, Anna actually recovers just a little bit faster than I do. Now, minus frames on hit for a low poke is quite common, but it's usually 1 or 2, not 5. So in that sense, the frame data really is quite bad, but there's a reason for that, and it will become clear in a little bit, because you're not really supposed to use this as a normal low poke. Sometimes you will, because you kind of have to. It's what you have and what you're relegated to. But you're actually more supposed to think about this move as a special cancelable move that you use to access some of your powerful specials. And so to make that make sense, the next thing I need to explain is the clean hit property of the move. So if I do the down 3 out here, you can tell that it will do 7 damage to Anna. But if I move just a little bit closer and I do it again, you can tell that it does 10 damage, and the clean hit text flashes on the screen. And that's all a clean hit is in Tekken, by the way. When you're close to the opponent or your attack hits deep into their character model, you get the clean hit and some bonus properties. In the case of this low, you get 3 extra damage, but much more importantly, you get the ability to magically cancel naturally into some of your powerful specials. This is very, very good and very, very important for this character. Most notably, most importantly, the DP2. And you can tell that that's super powerful because it's going to be a 34 damage unseeable knockdown low that will wall splat at some ranges. That's insanely powerful for a low, and it becomes even crazier when you consider the fact that if you have double blood meter and access to your super, you can turn that into a full combo. And that's actually the most common way you will access your super with Eliza, setting it up with a clean it down 3 and cancelling that into a DP2. So insane power. The other specials that you tend to cancel into with the character is the EXDP, which is similar to the DP2, but you get a bit more damage at 44, which is really good. And the other one, the really big one, is the quarter circle back 1+2. This is massive at 40 damage again, not quite as much as the EXDP, but the reason this is really big is this move will wall splat when you're right next to the wall. And so if you're standing here and you have meter, your opponent is very scared because you can do this to them and get a wall splat move that does 40 damage on the initial hit. That's giant, it's enormous, and it makes your mix-up at the wall extremely scary. Your mids aren't amazing, but the low is like atomically powerful, so it works out in your favor most of the time. Very, very powerful. So those are the three main things that I cancel the down 3 into. Another thing that you see people do is cancel this into a quarter circle forward 1 or fireball 1. That is not natural even if you do get the clean hit, as you can tell right there, but because the fireball 1 is safe in the new season at -9, you have the ability to create some artificial safety for your low by putting out this sort of chunky, powerful special mid that, if it connects, gives you 20 damage and a knockdown, which is really quite good. So the down 3 might look like a small, unimpressive low poke with shitty frame data, but it turns out it's actually one of the most powerful moves in your entire move list when you use it to set up other more chunky stuff. The other low we need to talk about is the down 4. And this is the slower of the two moves. This is 20 frames to impact, which means that it is barely seeable. It's sort of just in the seeable range, but if you're playing online, most of the time, most people will not react to it in time. So it's effectively unseeable for the most part, at least in the online environment. And this has much better tracking and does more damage. So this is a much more sort of chunky low. It also has the very strong high crush properties. You can see that she ducks down fast and far. And this becomes even more important when you consider that the move is a counter hit launcher, which is why it is so amazing. I mean, really, really good for that. And you can get decent damage combos off of that as well. So, while this is risky because it is also launch punishable at -27, which is really quite big, and sort of semi-seeable, it is potentially really high reward, and it does hit on the ground and track really well. So you should actually risk this move quite often, in my opinion. I do, and more often than not it works out completely in my favor, and every once in a while I get launch punished, but I forgive the low for that, for all the amazing damage that it gives me when I counter hit with it and get combos. So I really like this low. It's -5 on hit, by the way, so you do get advantage for hitting with this move, and that is really cool when you consider the fact that when you're down here you actually have access to the while standing 2. The while standing 2 is a safe move, which is amazing. It knocks down, which is amazing, and it's mid, so that's great, but it's actually also a counter hit launcher, and so when you're down here and you have +5 and access to this high-powered counter-hit launcher from while standing, that makes this synergy pretty cool. So the down 4 actually works really well and is good friends with your while standing 2. Haven't talked about the while standing 2 in any sections so far, but it is actually a very, very good move. Okay, so those are your two sort of generic typical lows. The down 3, which is small, non-impressive and risky but leads to powerful specials, and the down 4, which is also very risky but can give you counter hit launches. You have two other lows with the character. The Moonglide 4, which we've probably talked about in the Moonglide section, is high powered but linear. Can sometimes give you weird resets at the wall, which is potentially very powerful. It's also launch punishable at -24, but it's important because it's what allows you to mix up, you know, the bloody claw from your Moonglide. And like I said, I probably talked about that in the Moonglide section, but I'm going to mention it here for clarity's sake. And then the last low that you have is your Snake Edge. And your Snake Edge is actually quite unique with Eliza because she jumps in the air crushing lows during the animation of the move. I think it's the only Snake Edge that does that. Now, if you watch my channel, you know that I'm not a big fan of the Snake Edge move archetype, and I tend to use Snake Edges extremely rarely, if at all, when I'm playing online. It happens, but it's not very common for me because I'm not a big fan of the move archetype. But completely up to you. If you think it's fun and if you want to use this move, then you have access to it, and it has that cool low crush property to make that a little bit better, which means that you can actually use it for Oki, and I have used it for Oki sometimes. It will hit the opponent on the ground for a good chunk of damage, but it will also jump over get up 3, and if your opponent stands back up and is standing by the time the move impacts, then you're going to get that full launch. That can be effective, but you also need to be aware of the fact that if they see it in time, then you're going to get launch punished if they block it, of course, and it's minus, you know, a billion like most Snake Edges, so you're definitely going to get launch punished when it does get seen. And that's going to wrap up your lows with Eliza. So not that many moves. I mean, 2 normal lows and kind of 4 low moves at all in total. But they all have specific purposes and are it's important to be familiar with them. So yeah, that's going to wrap up this section. I know it wasn't very long or very meaty, but I mean, Eliza's lows are cool and they work for their intended purposes and are very powerful when used in the right way. I'm going to cut the video one time and move on to a different section, so I'll see you guys in a little bit. In this section I want to talk about all the standout powerful key moves that really make this character tick. This is where you will find all the really juicy stuff. I'm going to talk mainly about how to play her from a range because that's what she's best at, but I'm going to leave Moonglide and her specials for their own section. I think that's probably the most easy to digest way to do this. So let's start with one of my favorites and one of your best mids. This is the Bloody Claw. It's kind of her version of a Demon Paw or maybe a Bob's Lariat. Not quite as good as those moves, but almost. It's very, very solid. So what is it? It's a long-range gap-closing mid that has high crush properties on the way in. It knocks down on wall splats, does 25 damage, and it's safe on block. So an amazing package of properties right there. It's -9 on block. It impacts at 14, but it's a forward notation, so you know that frame rate is going to be variable. So amazing move, you know, knock yourself out, do a lot of them when you have a little bit of range and room to do it, and it will never let you down, you know, low risk, high reward. But there are 2 sort of footnotes to this move that you need to keep in mind in order to be able to apply it safely and effectively. The first one has to do with its range, and to demonstrate, if I reset the positioning back to the start right here and I do 1 Korean backdash, I can do a stumpy Bloody Claw that doesn't reach Paul, but if I do the exact same thing and I ride that dash a little bit deeper, I can extend the range of the move, and this is something that you can do on forward notation moves in Tekken. But with the Bloody Claw it's very important because you sort of want to estimate the amount of room you have, and if you're very close to the opponent you obviously want to get the move out as soon as possible, but if you have more range you want to extend it so that you don't undershoot. And undershooting this move is the really risky part, you know, like that, and then you whiff, and then you get whiff punished. As long as you're connecting with your opponent, you're safe on block, and so you're not taking a major risk. But getting used to, you know, when and how to do the input in relation to the dash is something to work on. The other thing is that when you hit with this move normally, Eliza will go into dangerous sleep. It's the name of this weird stance where she falls asleep and charges up a little bit of meter. And so you can easily see the design idea behind this. You knock the opponent down, and if they don't recover fast and run back to you, you get the chance to build a little bit of free bar. However, this is almost never useful and doesn't really work out in my experience, and so you don't want it to happen. And the way you prevent Eliza from going into dangerous sleep is you tap or hold back when the Bloody Claw connects, or a little bit before it connects, really. You have to be kind of fast. And so it's annoying. The actual notation for the move should probably be, you know, in your mind. 4-4-2 back or 4-4-2 hold back. But once you get used to that and it becomes second nature, it's very easy to do, and the move is amazing. So, you know, a little bit of annoying execution that you have to do just to get standard stuff, but that is the name of the game with this character. So, there you go. Great move. Next, let's talk about down forward 3. This is one of your homing moves, and it's very slow to impact, but apart from that, everything else is amazing. It's a long range, it's mid, it's safe on block at -8, it's homing, and she's flying during it, which means that it crushes lows. Which means that even though you will not really use it as a homing move up close here when the opponent is stepping, from a range it's great, and for Oki it's amazing. So when you're knocking your opponent down and running up and you want to apply Oki, doing this, I mean, it's going to catch a crouching opponent, it's going to catch somebody who rolls to the side and gets up, but it's more importantly going to crush and completely beat Get Up 3. And Get Up 3 is very common, especially online. In the low ranks, people are trying to launch you on their way off the ground, and so you're going to, you know, knock them down and then go straight over that and then knock them down again. pushing them further towards the corner in the wall where you really like to be with this character because her wall game is really strong. At the wall, the move becomes even better because of wall splats. So, you know, you do a wall combo, the opponent is on the floor, and then you catch them with that and you reset with another wall splat. So, amazing Oki tool and really good, solid, low-risk move overall. It is, however, a little bit too slow to use when you're very close. Okay, next I want to talk about the most important move in your entire move list. I think this move is amazing. I think it's the most important move you have with the character, and if she didn't have this, basically she wouldn't work. If it was a little bit weaker than it is, she wouldn't work, in my opinion. But because it does exist, but because it works the way that it does, it's amazing, and it sort of ties the entire character together. And it's forward 3-4. The name for this move in the Japanese move list, at least, is Helical Flow. I don't know what the English name for it is. Maybe somebody could tell me, because I think it deserves to have a more dramatic name than forward 3-4. It's also annoying to say, but the move is amazing. You can do it out of a Moonglide, but the most important and useful version comes out of 1-1-3-4. What am I saying? Forward 3-4. Sorry. And the reason this move is so important and so good, let's explain it. So first of all, the first hit, the 4-4-3 by itself, is a homing high. And the extension is natural, and it will launch the opponent, not for a full combo, for a sort of semi-full combo. You get decent damage, somewhere in the low 50s, but you can use it to carry towards the wall. So it's kind of a full launcher, and it's very, very good. And, you know, anything that helps you get to the wall with Eliza is important, because that's where she wants to be most of the time. Now, the reason I said that you can't really change this move and make it worse is because currently these two hits jail on block. So if we put him to all guard and then crouch guard, you can tell that Paul is not able to crouch the second hit the way he would, for example, if I do something like that, you see? And so because they can duck this, it just makes the move a lot more low risk. If they were able to duck it, they could do that on reaction, and the move would just be almost unusably weak against an opponent with good reaction time. The second thing to note is that the string is completely safe on block at -7. If it was punishable, again, it would be a little bit too risky to really use a lot, but because it's safe, because it jails, you can throw this out, and as long as the opponent doesn't predict and duck both highs, it's relatively low risk for a massive reward, and it allows you to stay extremely dangerous from a range. I mean, way out here, you can do it out of a Moonglide, but that is reactable. But if I'm in the mid-range like here, and I do this, nobody's ever going to be fast enough to react to that. They have to predict it. And so it's a low risk, massive reward move. The other thing that you need to consider is that when Eliza is out here, a lot of the time, she's throwing Fireball too. And the way you beat fireballs in this game is you step or you walk. And so if you're out here and you're causing your opponent to step and walk with your fireball, but you have a long-range launcher that launches people who step and walk, you can see how the synergy between these moves becomes, you know, really, really strong. And it's one of the nexus strategies of the entire character, one of the main parts of your entire game plan. You make them walk with this, and then you catch them walking with this. Very, very good. And low risk as long as you're, you know, applying it in the right way. Super cool. What a great move. And if you know what its name is in English, then let me know, because I don't want to have to keep on calling it forward 3-4. Next, let's talk about your Power Crush, another great move. I mean, these sort of chunky, slow, long-range mids with Eliza is really sort of the name of the game. This Power Crush is slow, 25 frames to impact, -13 on block, which it would be. You know, it deserves to be punishable for how good it is. But it has massive range, and the fact that it's slow is not only a downside, because it sort of gives you the time to go through multiple hits and sometimes strings with it and still hit the opponent. But if they do something very fast, like a jab, and you armor through that, they can actually get back to guard and block this by the time it impacts. So it's a double-edged sword, but it is very, very solid, long range, mid, and super reliable. The coolest thing about this move is that you will get a completely guaranteed Moonglide 4 on hit. This Moonglide 4 here for 16 damage is completely guaranteed. They can do nothing about it. And that's good in itself because it's raw damage, but it has one extremely important strategic application when you're playing online because of all the really powerful, oppressive gap closers that exist in this game. For example, Dragunov's running 2. For example, Noctis is running 1+2, or even Noctis is down back 1+2. Maybe even stuff like, Trooper Roll from Paul. The reason this move is so good against those moves is that you're supposed to step and walk them, but if you mess the timing of that up, then you end up eating so much damage and it's really high risk. It's what allows those gap closers to be so oppressive online. But if you are able to predict them and you do a power crush, that is going to allow you to armor through, and you will trade. They will do roughly 20 damage to you for the most part, and you will do roughly 20 with this to them. But then because you get that guaranteed chunk of 16 afterwards, it means that you're trading favorably, and you're getting a net gain of damage dealt, which means that you have a go-to reliable strategy for not losing against those abusive gap closers, and it's a really important strategy in those matchups that can be super annoying otherwise. So I love this move for that reason, and also any armor move that gives you that wall splat is great because it's there for the wall splat, especially because this has homing properties, and so if the opponent is trying to walk with their back against the wall, you can splat them with this. It is a little bit too slow for that to work out a lot of the time, but sometimes it will happen, and it's just a really solid move. Just be aware, -13, you will get punished every once in a while, but for the most part, using this move, if you know when to place it, is just going to end up with a lot of damage in your corner, and I love it for that reason. It's very good. Okay, the only note that I have for Eliza's backswing blow in my notes is back 1+2 is bad, but if you look at my recent gameplay with this character, you can see that I've actually started using it sometimes, and I've sort of come to like it a little bit. It does have its role. So this is your backswing blow, back 1+2. It's -13 on block, which I think is a little bit much maybe, but it does force crouch, and if your opponent doesn't know that, then they're going to struggle to deal with it properly because they don't know that they have to do while standing moves or crouch cancel after it. But the problem is that the evasive properties aren't really big enough, because if you look at, okay, so currently Eliza is standing with her left leg forward and her right leg behind, but if she does the backswing blow, look at her right leg. You can see that it stays completely planted and the rest of her body pivots around it, which means that the only the only space you create in her lower body is the space between her legs. And then her upper body obviously dips back quite far, but that means that any long range mid will scoop you up when you're doing this, and so it's mainly used for evading jabs. But sometimes you do something like that, they want to do some jabs and you predict that, you dodge the jabs, you come back in 25 damage, and it's your turn again, and it's cheeky and it does work. And I have ended, sometimes when you get a slow-mo with this and they whiff and you jump in and you take the round, it's deeply satisfying, and so this move has a place in my heart at this point, but it's not amazing, let's just say that much. And then the 4-forward 1+2 actually is crap, and I don't think we need to talk about it. Now that it's the final hit of this is low parryable, I don't think you should have this move in your standard arsenal for the most part. So that probably wraps up this section, and the next one we need to talk about all of your specials, which is very important and kind of difficult to understand if you're not used to this kind of gameplay, if you're not a 2D kind of guy. So strap in for that. I'm going to make another cut and I'll see you guys on the next stage. This is where things need to get a little bit technical, because I'm going to talk about specials, special cancels, and explain how that works mechanically. This will make a lot of sense to you if you have experience from games like Street Fighter, but if you're like me and you're mainly a 3D kind of guy, it's a lot to digest. So please try and have a little bit of patience with me, and I will give you a lot of examples and try and be clear throughout. So I'm going to start by explaining what a special cancel is. You have a lot of moves with a character called specials. There are 4 groups of 3 and an EX version of your stance for a total of 13. And then you have a bunch of special cancelable moves, for example this one jab. And so the way this works is, while the special cancelable moves and the specials aren't really strings per se, you can sort of snap a special cancelable move and any special of your choice together, kind of like Lego blocks. It will splice them together and create a string, maybe sometimes even making that string natural, such as in the case of cancelling a one jab into a DP2, and it's very powerful. For example, in this case, it creates your most powerful block punisher with the character. So let's give you the special cancelable moves before we talk about the specials. I'm going to mention all the ones that I use that I think are useful. So you have the 1, the 1-1, the 2-2, the down 3, which is important because it's what allows you to, well, first of all, it's an amazing powerful low, but it allows you to set up your super for full combos. The down 1, which is great because it's fast, evasive, it allows you to escape and set up pressure, especially when you cancel into Divekick 4. Back 4, which is important because it allows you for a 15 frame launcher when you go into a DP1. Same thing for the while standing 1. And then the 4-2, which is a little bit of a unique move. It only really cancels into fireballs for some reasons, but when it does, it's very powerful. Now let's talk about the actual specials themselves. You have a fireball 2. Let's start with the fireballs. You have quarter circle forward 1, this quarter circle forward 1, you have quarter circle forward 2, and then 1+2. And that's the EX. An EX special is when you use both the button presses for the non-EX specials, and Eliza will kind of do both of them at the same time. Flash yellow, and it requires you to spend a bar of meter. So let's start with Fireball 2 because it's the most common special that you use and you don't really cancel into it all that much. You just do it by itself. It's a 20 damage special mid projectile. You've seen it before. Geese does something very similar to this, and it's a harassment tool from a range. They can move to the side to avoid this, or do something that jumps into the air to go over it. That's what you have to be careful about. But most of the time when you're using it from a range, it's really quite safe. And it will catch them, get stray hits for 20 damage, which is good. There are 2 main strategic applications for this move apart from that I want to mention. The first one is that it has amazing synergy with 4-4-3-4, because what people will do when you start throwing these is walk or step to the side, and then you have this very long range and powerful homing launcher designed to catch people who are walking to the side. So you throw these, they start walking, and then you launch them with this. And so the synergy there is really, really deep, and it's like one of the core strategies of the character. The other really cool application for Fireball 2 is that it's amazing for dealing with people who are fucking around on the ground. So if I'm playing against Eddie and he's lying over there and relaxed and he's just waiting for me to come over so he can launch me low, I can stay out here and throw this fireball, hitting him on the ground and forcing him to, you know, stand back up and play. If Xiaoyu is over there and she's fucking around with AOP Duck, I can throw this and I can force her to come back up. And so in those matchups where people want to like roll around on the ground and break dance, it's actually a very important tool, and it improves that matchup for you. Kuma, another great example. You knock him down and he's doing belly flops, you know, and you don't even get close to him. You just throw this, you get your damage, and you force them back up. It's very good for that. Fireball 1 is a little bit of a weird move. It's kind of like you create a firewall that your character can, or that your opponent can walk into. It grows a little bit during its duration, kind of like that, and hits them at the end. And it doesn't see a lot of application. If you do it off of a 4-4-4-2, you can get a guaranteed chunk of 34, which is nice. And then the other application you see for the move is that it was buffed in the new season to be safe on block at -9. And so if you cancel Clean It Down 3 into it, this is not natural, as you can see right here, but it does add a little bit of potential stopping power to that low, which is kind of weak and flimsy by itself. And so this is a way to sort of improve her low game and get a little bit more power in there. If they want to swing in between here, you get that 20 damage and a knockdown. But Fireball is a little bit of a weird one. It doesn't really see that much application in my opinion. There are people out there who like to use it, and maybe I should be experimenting more with it, you know, finding fun ways to use it. But -9 on block and knockdown on hits. And then you have the EX Fireball, and this is a weird move. So the way they've changed this, first of all, in the new season is you will fly into an EX Moonglide, which is this thing, at the end, and you're forced to do this. You don't have the option of not doing the EX Moonglide, and some Eliza players, me included, were confused by that at first because it kind of limits player freedom a little bit and feels kind of awkward. It turns out, however, when you do that EX Moonglide, well, you don't have the option to. When the EX Moonglide comes out, you have some amazing potential power here. For example, if you do the EX Moonglide off of this string, if any part of the string or either of the two fireballs hit, this is a launch for a full combo, which is great because it's fast, it's got good range, she jumps into the air when she does it, and then it's 4 potential hits that can launch the opponents. This is going to lead to a lot of damage, and it's honestly, when I just want to spend one single bar and I don't want to do anything crazy, this is usually what I attempt because it just leads to so many combos and so much damage. The thing that will happen if they block the initial string and the fireballs is that they will be in block stun by the time you come in with the EX Moonglide. You see that Consia still has his hands in the air by the time I'm flying at him, and that means that the Moonglide mix-up you get off of the EX Moonglide is guaranteed and potentially very powerful. So you're going to mix the 2 for the mid, the 4 for the low, and then if they really want to turtle up, you can even sometimes throw the unblockable 1+2 and knock them down for 30 damage. This is good in the open, but it becomes crazy at the wall, and I'm going to explain why. Well, first of all, I tend to use this string. Oh, you can also cancel that into super. It's not something that sees a lot of use, but it's going to happen by accident every once in a while like that time. But if you do this string at the wall, if they block it, you're going to come in with a very powerful Moonglide mix-up for the wall splat. If it hits, you can just do a Moonglide 2, and that's going to hit them before they slide down to the floor, and you get a nice chunk of damage. But the reason this is so powerful at the wall is, let's try and show it here. The EX Moonglide happens to be your wall bounce move with the character, so the mid is empowered and leads to really high damage wall splats. The low is also extra powerful at the wall because if you hit with it and you cancel into a fast down 3 DP2 like that, it has to be kind of clutch, and it takes a bit of practice to do after the Moonglide 4, but if you do that, that can actually reset into a full wall splat and give you a wall combo on top of the 20 damage that you already get for hitting with a low. And so at the wall, this string and the EX Fireball in general are amazing, but I tend to not throw the fireball by itself and typically use this string to go into it because it's just an easier way of accessing it, and you get the exact same properties anyway. Okay, next let's talk about DPs. You have forward, neutral, down, down, forward 1, and then you have a 2 version and an EX version. And you typically do not do the 1 and the 2 DP by themselves. You want to cancel into these, and they're used for very different things. The 2 you can get guaranteed off of pretty much any move that is special cancelable, but the main ones being the 1 jab for your 10 frame block punisher, the down 3 for your super setup like this to getting full launches, and then the 2-2 for your 14 frame block punisher, and all of those can use the super to turn into a combo. Extremely launch punishable, of course all the DPs are, so you have to be careful about that. But that's DP2, and then the DP1 you're going to want to cancel into mainly off of while standing 1, this move, and the back 4, because when you do, that becomes a natural extension and it becomes a full launcher. The back 4 is 15 frames to impact the while standing 1. The back 4 is, did I say that right? It's back 4, yeah, for the 15 frame, and then while standing 1 is a 14 frame. So they're fast, potentially very powerful launchers, and that's really all I have to say about the DP1. And then the EX DP is the sort of weird one of the bunch. The way this works is, it's first of all natural anytime the DP2 is natural, meaning that if you have a bar of meter, you can use an EX version instead of a DP2 and you get more damage. So instead of the 31 right there, you can get 41 for doing the EX version. You can do the exact same thing off of your down 3, which is great. But the EXDP you can actually use by itself and get powerful stuff because it has invulnerability on the startup frames, and it's not like a armor move where you go through stuff. You actually become truly immune to attacks and they just cannot touch you, and so this becomes a very powerful panic move for that reason. So when your opponent is putting you at minus frames, pushing you into a corner, and you feel like they are going to keep on swinging, you can use this as a way to get out of that pressure. But if you mess it up and they block it, you're going to get launched every time. So it's very similar to a Rage Art in that sense, actually. The difference being that you don't have to eat damage when you armor through something the way you have to do with a Rage Art. So it's pretty cool, but I also use it sometimes just off of a down 3 like that to get a guaranteed 44 damage off of a clean it down 3. Or sometimes if you just want to add a little bit more stopping power to your 1 DP2 for the punish, but you don't have the double bar to go into the super, you can do that and get 41. So it's really quite cool. But those are your DPs. Next, let's talk about these slicing moves. They're also not really used by themselves all that much. They're mainly cancelled into. The quarter circle back 1, which is this move, is your main spin move with the character, and you will pretty much always cancel into it off of a down 3 or a back 4 when you're doing combos. And then the 2 version is mainly used in wall combos or as a wall ender. You can use both of them in the open or after a quick cancel. When you do, they actually both have counter at launch properties, which is cool. That 2 being the slightly more powerful version in terms of damage, because you can do stuff like this. And then let's give you the frame data. The quarter circle back 1, they're both 20 frames to impact. The 1 version is minus 11 and plus 11 on hit, but because, you know, they are spun away, you don't really get guaranteed stuff. And then the 2 version is minus 13 on block, minus 2 on hit. So that's the one, it's the slightly more powerful one, but it's also worse to get blocked, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And then the EX version of these slicing attacks, she does again the 2 and then the 1 together. This is natural, and you can get it completely natural off of a clean hit down 3, which is the way you would typically use this move. So you'll see me use this just off of a clean down 3 in the open when I want to get a chunk of 40 damage. If you're going to do that, honestly, do an EXDP and get 44 instead of 40. But the way you use this move mainly where it becomes extremely powerful is at the wall, because it turns this 15 frame to impact unsee below into a 40 damage wall splatting move, which makes it, I think, just one of the most powerful wall splatting tools in the entire game. It's really insanely powerful. And this is the reason you see so many Eliza players get low parried at the wall. The opponent is so scared of this move at the wall that they just hold down forward and wait for it to come out, and then you get parried. So you have to mix in some mids there to really make that work. But when you do, I mean, this is so powerful at the wall that it's insane. So remarkable move. It's minus 14 on block though, so you have to be careful, because while it does have some pushback when you're at the wall, that pushback doesn't really come into play, and the opponent can punch you for using this. You get plus 11 on hit as well, so pretty cool. But those are your slices, as I tend to call them, or crescent moons, or whatever you want to call them. But they're pretty cool, and this one has good tracking, by the way, the 1 version. And then as combo enders, they work really well as well. The 2 has the better wall carry potential, but the 1 version has the better range, and I'm going to cover that more in the combo section. And lastly, let's talk about dive kicks. Now, dive kick 4, which is this move, is such an important move and such a weird one that it gets its own section, so we're going to talk about that separately. So here I'm just going to talk about the EX version of the dive kick and the dive kick 3. And so the way these moves work is that she jumps back into the air and comes back down like a backswing blow with low crush, which is obviously very cool. But what you can also do with any version of your dive kick is jump into the air and then do the input, and then you erase all of that wind up, which is the sort of theory behind why instant dive kicks, which I'm going to show you separately, which is what makes that work. But the dive kick 3 is pretty cool. When I knock my opponent down with this, I tend to like jump in the air and sort of hunt them from up here. If they stay on the ground and do a get up kick, I can identify that, do a dive kick 3 and knock them all the way back down. And if they're at the wall, for example, I'll be here at the wall. If I knock them down, I'll jump back, and if I see them do a move, I can come down with a dive kick 3 and that'll reset them with a wall splat. It also hits people on the ground if they stay on the ground, so it's very cool for that. The dive kick 3 is minus 19 to minus 10 on block, so it's variable frame data depending on how high you hit them, which is annoying, but typically you're going to eat a somewhat chunky punish of around 12. That's what people usually are willing to risk and go for. And then you get the knockdown on hit, of course. And then the EX version here is a launcher, and you can use this to this is a powerful, you know, evasive backswing blow. It's really your best backswing blow option, obviously more powerful than this, especially after a jump back, and it's a supremely powerful round opener. What you'll do with Eliza, if you have a bar left over from the last round, is you start with a jump back, and anytime they swing, pretty much do anything except walk to the side, you can see that and you can do this, and you will whiff punish that and you'll get a combo, carry that to the wall, and you've opened the round with a lot of power. So it's very powerful for that. I also like to do it when I think my opponent is going to do something short range, like a down jab or a normal jab. Just jump back, move out of the way of that, and then come down with a launching backswing blow. The EX version of the dive kick, let's see, have I forgotten to write down the frame data for that? That's amateurish, but it's fine because I actually have the frame data up here on my computer. Let me just get that up for you. Okay, let's have a look here. Quarter circle back 3 plus 4, minus 13. So really quite bad on block. Minus 13 to 12 is what it says. So you get the same sort of minus frames that you typically get off of the dive kick 3, and then you get a launch on hits. That's pretty cool. And that's going to wrap it up for specials and special cancels. Like I said, not super easy to digest at first unless you're a 2D player, but it is what creates you know, the core of what this character is actually about and fleshes out her move list, and so it is something to get used to. The dive kick 4 and combos and how all that works is going to be covered separately, but for now I hope it made sense. I'm going to make another cut and I'll see you guys in the next section. In this section we're going to talk about Dive Kick 4 and Instant Dive Kick 4. Very interesting move, very unique and almost broken property, so it definitely deserves to have its own section. I'm going to talk about the other dive kicks like the EX and the 3 in a section on specials, but Dive Kick 4 deserves to be talked about separately. Now, before we do this, I want to answer a pretty important question that I get a lot, which is, can I teach myself how to play Eliza and be good without learning Dive Kick 4 because I think it's very hard or annoying or scary or whatever? And the answer to that is definitely yes. I mean, I got to Emperor for the first time pretty much without using Dive Kick 4 with Eliza. I could do the input, but I wasn't really comfortable with implementing it in my core strategy. And then I just did some more practice mode and started implementing it slowly, and my gameplay got a lot better. So I mean, it's a very important move. Of course you can play the character without it, but why would you want to? I mean, it's not like people who are good with advanced characters in this game have unique superpowers and can do things that you aren't capable of. They just practice a bit more, or they've been playing for a lot longer, and whether it takes you a long time or a short amount of time to get good at doing a difficult input, there's no reason you should be uniquely bad at doing something difficult, and there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get there. So if you're really interested in playing this character, I would say of course you can play her without Dive Kick 4 or Instant Dive Kick 4, but it's probably a better choice to just play her like that and then try and maybe gradually implement it and practice it every once in a while. You know, before you go online, instead of going online for an hour, maybe sit in practice mode and do a couple of Dive Kick 4s for an hour and do that a couple of times, and after a few weeks it'll be there. It just will. I'm sorry, I need to have a drink. My throat is drying out. But let's talk about the actual move now. So quarter circle back 4 looks like this. Eliza will jump in the air and come back down with a dive kick. And this is very good in terms of its frame data. The impact frames are variable depending on if you do it, you know, just normal standing, where you hit the opponent, you know, if you hit them on the head or down by the legs. If you do this move in the air like this, you don't have any wind up. So if you look at the normal animation here, she will jump all the way back and then do it. But if I do the input when I'm already jumping, she just starts the move right away. And that's important when we explain how the instant version works. So the frame data on block is between -1 and +6, and you're usually at the upper end of that spectrum, so you actually get respectable plus frames for getting this move blocked, which is of course great. Plus frames on block is always powerful and great. And on hit you get between +9 and +16, and again you're usually at the upper end of that spectrum, which means that if I hit with a dive kick 4 right here and I press, and I set the second option all guard here, so you can see she's gonna block non-natural combos. If I hit with a dive kick 4 and do a 1-2, you can see that actually naturally combos. So I have so much hit stun on the opponent that my other fast moves actually become natural extensions. So I can do a back 2-3 even and get that completely guaranteed, which is huge. So this move is potentially extremely powerful, especially when you consider the fact that if Eliza can get a 1 jab, she can do, for example, a 1 DP2. Let's try and show that. And then if she has double blood meter, she can turn that into a super for a full combo. So I mean, the potential for this dive kick to lead to huge damage is insane, and it's also a very good pressure tool. The way I use this most of the time is I do a down jab into the quarter circle back 4, because the down jab is fast, it's evasive, it crushes highs, and whether I'm trying to open pressure or escape pressure, it allows me for a quick move, and then I come down with a dive kick, and whether it gets blocked or I get a hit, I'm at advantage and I can start mounting pressure. The opponent can, when you're doing these dive kicks, can actually, if they're very good at backdashing quickly, they can escape that with backdashing, and you have to be careful about that so that you don't, start whiffing. But that's something that you're going to have to gauge, on a match-by-match basis. And then, so yeah, that's the main way you use the dive kick. You cancel into it for pressure, and then you, at the wall, use it in your wall combos. And then you have, of course, the instant dive kick, which we've got to talk about now. So the way this works is I taught you earlier that if you're in the air when you do the input for the dive kick, there is no wind up. And so the theory is, if I'm standing on the ground, is there a way that I can remove all of this wind up and perform the move as though I were in the air? And it turns out that's possible. And I think it's probably an oversight by the developers. I don't think they designed this move to be in here intentionally. Then people figured out how to do it. And because Eliza is kind of an underpowered character to a lot of people, they kind of just left it in. I think that's what happened. I might be wrong. Might have been, something that Namco intended for you to do. So the way you do this is you're going to do a quarter circle back. Let's actually turn on command history, even though it's going to look sloppy, but it's probably important enough that we should have it on for this. There we go. So you're going to do your normal quarter circle back like you would when you want to do a normal quarter circle back 4 like that. And then before you press the 4, you're going to slide your stick or your thumb, if you're playing on pad like I am, to the up forward position, which causes Eliza to jump diagonally forwards. And then when you're in the air, when you've just about left the ground, you're going to press the 4. And if you do that right, what's going to happen is the game gets fooled into thinking that you're doing a quarter circle back 4, but because you pressed up and forward, you've jumped into the air, and so the wind up gets removed because it comes out when you are in the air or right when you're about to leave the ground, and so you're able to perform an instant dive kick from the ground without the wind up the way you would if you were in the air. So I hope that made sense. I know it was a little bit difficult to digest the way I said it, but the way to practice this, the common mistake that you see is you see people do, they get a, I've practiced this so much so it's hard to do the wrong one right now, but they do, let's try and I can't not get it right now, which is annoying. There we go. You see them get a jumping 4 like this. And when you're getting the jumping 4, which is by far the most common mistake when you're not getting your instant dive kick out, is either your quarter circle back isn't clean. You need to make sure that you do down, down back, and back. You want to do all 3 inputs. And then when you slide to up forward, make sure you press the 4 after you've pressed up and forward, because if you do it at the same time, you're just gonna get this move. You need to sort of be already in the air, or just about having left the ground before you press the 4 to make this work. And if you play around with the timing, eventually you'll find it. It's one of those, sort of rhythm-based almost things. But yeah, I recommend you practice the dive kick 4. It is one of the more advanced techniques with Eliza, who's already an advanced character. And it's kind of like her Electric Wind God Fist, not in the sense that it has a similar input, not in the sense that it has a just frame, but it is an advanced technique where you have to do a lot of finger work that you want to practice a lot, and the better you get, it's sort of going to scale up the power of your Eliza play. And there is also, you know, you can do it slow and you can do it fast, and the better you do it, the faster you do it, the closer Eliza will be to the ground when the move comes out. And if you do it slower, she'll be, you know, having jumped quite far into the air before it happens. But play around with it, play around with the different guaranteed things you can get, you know, after a dive kick guaranteed. And if you can learn how to do things like, you know, confirm a hit on an instant dive kick and then turning that into, you know, one jab DP2 and stuff, then you're doing some pretty cool, pretty insanely powerful things with the character. And it's one of the few techniques she has that, you know, is stand out powerful and really good. So again, I didn't use it a lot, and then I practiced it, and then I got better at it. And if I can do it, then that's something that absolutely everybody can teach themselves how to do. And if you find it intimidating, just work on implementing it gradually, you know. Learn all the sort of, you know, doing a normal combos with this move like this is not hard. Learn how to do that first, and then start working on your dive kicks as you get better and more comfortable with the character would be my tip. But that's going to be my little explanation of the dive kick and the instant dive kick. Hope it was digestible enough. I'm going to cut the video now and we're going to move on to a different section. Thank you for watching so far. I hope you're enjoying it. I'll see you guys in a couple of seconds. Welcome back. In this section I want to talk to you about Eliza's one and only stance. Well, she kind of has two stances because she has this weird thing called Dangerous Sleep, where she will fall asleep and charge her meter, but it's not really all that useful. She mainly has one true stance. This is called Moonglide, and then she has an EX version of the Moonglide as well. The way you perform the input for this stance is forward and 4, and she will jump forwards and sort of fly on a purple cloud like this, and you have access to a couple of moves. And as you can tell, this is obviously something that you're meant to use from a range to get in on your opponent, and then you have a lot of really powerful moves from this stance, and you actually do have a real mix-up at the core of the Moonglide as well. So let's start talking about the different moves that you have. You have Moonglide, so forward 4, 1, 2, 1 plus 2, which is this string. It's a 3-hit thing. It's mainly used as a combo ender. You can use it in combos for like minor wall carry stuff and wall splatting. And it's just a, you know, a safe little jab out of the stance when you don't want to do anything too crazy. The first 2 hits are high. The final hit is mid. The first hit is minus 4 on block and plus 2 on hit. The second hit is minus 8 on block and plus 1 on hit. And the final hit is minus 13 on block and will knock down on hit. And if you remember the power crush that we talked about in a different section, this move, you can tell that it actually has a very similar animation to the final hit of Moonglide 1, 2, 1 plus 2. It's essentially the same move but without the armor properties, and that means that it does the exact same knockdown. So if you look at the way that Paul will fly away and land on the ground like that, it's going to look pretty much the same if I hit with this move. And that means that just like with the Power Crush, you can actually get a guaranteed Moonglide 4 after you hit with that final hit of the string. It's not going to happen all that often. It's not a string that you use all that often, but it can happen when it does. It's good to keep in mind that you have the ability to collect 16, you know, completely guaranteed and free damage on the floor, the same as if you had hit with your Power Crush. So this is mainly something that you use for combo filler or for combo enders. You know, you see people do stuff like this, and they will use the Moonglide and those individual hits of the string to carry the opponent towards the wall, and then you can, you know, as a combo ender, use this. And it also works as sort of a bootleg wall combo. It's actually kind of good for a wall combo. The only thing is you have to delay the final hit to make sure you get the 60% scaling on for that 12 damage. To make the damage become substantial. If you do it too fast, you don't get that. But that's the sort of most standard string that you have after Moonglide or from your Moonglide, and it's almost exclusively a combo tool. Next, let's talk about Moonglide 2. It's another move that you will recognize because it is your Bloody Claw, your forward 2. Out of the stance. So it's, you know, this move but with a lot more range coming out of a stance, and this again is good for wall splatting. It's good for combo ending, and you get a lot more range, but you have to be aware of the fact that it becomes a lot more telegraphed when you do it. You know, this is a lot slower than just this, and so that's the downside, but you get all that, you know, really good range. And it's also the mid that you're going to use when you do your Moonglide mix-up, and it's actually pretty good. It's 25 damage and a knockdown, and even if it does get blocked, it's safe, which lends a lot more power to that mix-up. It means that you can apply it without you know, worrying as much about retaliation. You only really eat damage when people predict and block the low. So let's talk about the low. It's Moonglide 4. It looks like this. It's called something needle, I don't really remember, but it's a very good sort of long range chunky low for 20 damage that knocks down. It's fast enough that you typically won't have people react to this. They sort of predict it out of the stance. You know, the stance itself is telegraphed, so they know that they might have to predict this, but the animation itself is very difficult, if not impossible, to react to, and it's very good. The other really cool thing about this move is if you're near the wall and you knock down with this, and you go straight into a very fast down 3 DP2, you can sometimes reset the opponent for a full wall combo. It's a little bit too slow that time, but that can work, and it's something to practice. It's really quite cool when it happens. So it has some extra stopping power at the wall, but the main Moonglide mix-up is this mid and this low, and they actually work off of each other really quite well, except for the fact that they're both quite linear, and people can attempt to walk this stance a lot, but you do have a homing move, and you have an amazing homing move in the shape of your Moonglide 3-4, and again, this is a move that you've seen before because it's your forward 3-4, but out of the stance. So most of our Moonglide moves are moves that you have in some other capacity, but you extend the range by getting them out of the stance, and so you have a good but linear mix-up, and to make up for that, an amazing homing move. And this move is also supremely important in combos. You can use it for really long-range combo enders. So if I'm, you know, comboing Paul and he's way over there, I can use the Moonglide to fly in and then use this for an ender, and I get good damage and good wall carry. So that's amazing, and this stance overall is really quite solid. You have one final move out of Moonglide, and it's your Moonglide 1+2. This is your unblockable, where she jumps in the air and you do 30 damage when you hit with it, and this is actually one of the really useful unblockables in the game because it can be used for tech catching, first of all, which is pretty cool. And you can also use it out of an EX Moonglide when your opponent is turtling, and you can break them down, and that's going to work even on really high level competition. People will sort of hesitate and eat this unblockable the same way they sometimes eat, you know, Yoshimitsu's unblockable. So for example, if we're going to give you an example of a tech catch you can do with this move, if you do your normal combo like this, you knock the opponent away, and then you fly in, and while they're standing up, you're flying in and you're charging the unblockable up, and you can tech catch with that. And you actually do have access to this unblockable without the stance as well. If you press it down back 1+2, she will do the same move. And the tech catch that Chanel uses with this sometimes that you will see is he will be in a combo, he will fly in and he will do just the Moonglide 1. And then he will end the combo, and he'll go straight into the unblockable, and he can catch people waking up with that 30 damage. So it's really quite cool and really quite useful. Now we need to talk about the fact that you have an EX version of this stance, which is your EX Moonglide, and the way you perform this is you press forward 3+4 during any other of your specials. So that's it, out of a Fireball 1. We're going to talk about all the different specials in a different section, but I think I need to talk about the EX Moonglide in this one as well, or any special cancelable move that you have. So for example, a 1 jab, a 2-2, you have the ability to cancel into an EX version of your Moonglide. Another really specific and cool version of the EX Moonglide that you have now in Season 2 that didn't exist before is when you perform the EX version of your Fireball, so the double Fireball, Eliza will jump into an EX Moonglide for free, and you would normally have to spend 1 bar of meter to perform an EX move like this EX Moonglide. So if you look at the bar right now, you can see I'm spending a bar when I'm doing it, but when I do this EX Fireball, I actually get it for free, and this is a little bit of a double-edged sword. Some players are annoyed by the fact that you don't have the option of not doing this after the EX Fireball. You sort of have to do it, and you're locked into the entire sequence, but then again, that allows you to do some pretty cool stuff. For example, you can be at the wall, and you can throw the EX fireball, and because the opponent is in hit stun, or sorry, block stun after having blocked these fireballs, if they block them, you're going to jump in with EX Moonglide and get a completely free Moonglide mix-up for the wall. And it's important to note that only the EX version of Moonglide 2 is your wall bounce move. That's the only time you're ever going to wall bounce with Eliza, because you're using this specifically for wall pressure. It actually works out, and it's a pretty good and decent wall bounce that I actually get to apply every once in a while, especially after that cancel right there. And because you have that powerful 4 for the mix-up at the wall as well, it's actually a very potent sort of pressure tool at the wall. And even if they get hit by the actual fireballs and you don't get the wall bounce itself, you can just go straight into a Moonglide 2 or 1-2, 1+2, and turn that into a wall combo, and you're going to get good damage as well. You should, however, like I said earlier, delay that final hit so that you get the proper damage on your Moonglide. But Moonglide overall is just a tool that you use when you're out here and hunting your opponent for the most part, and you can jump in and you can get damage. The 4 by itself actually has some pretty decent and weird tracking, especially if you delay it, and it hits people on the ground, which is good. So you can, when people are really turtling up and just moving around, while it is a risk, moving in with this and you know, knocking them down can actually be a very effective way of breaking down turtles and hitting people on the floor. And if you're playing against somebody who's advanced, who's gonna, you know, be looking out for this and trying to block it and launch you, because it's -24 on block, you just mix in that 2 every once in a while to keep them guessing, and they're going to duck into this, and you're going to get 25 damage and a knockdown for that as well. So it's a pretty solid mix-up stance, and I really quite like it. It's good from a range, it's really good in combos, and it has, you know, multiple really important uses for the characters. The combos we're going to talk about in their own section, and the specials are also going to get their own section, and we're going to talk about, you know, all these different, you know, the EX Fireball and stuff like that. But for now, that's Moonglide, its moves and its frame data. Really useful, really cool. Let's make another cut in the video, and I'll see you guys again in a couple of seconds. I just want to talk briefly about a couple of bits and pieces that don't really fit in any other section, and I'm going to start by talking about throws. With Eliza, you have the very standard package of a 1 throw, you have a 2 throw, and then you have a 1+2 throw that is going to be the slightly higher damage throw. That is slightly more difficult to break because it has to be broken 1+2. The way I set up throws with Eliza is I usually just do them after a dive kick, because when you come down with a dive kick, you usually have enough advantage even on block that your opponent will struggle to duck this, and they have to actually break the throw on reaction to get away from it, which makes it a lot safer and makes it a good setup for you. And so I'll use the down forward 1+2, which is the 1+2 break most of the time because of the 40 damage, but it's important to mix this every once in a while because the opponent will be getting too comfortable with just breaking 1+2. And in those cases, I always mix with the 1, and the reason I want to mix with the 1 here is because it has the really cool added benefit of regaining some HP for Eliza, which is really cool. You can tell that she bites them and sucks their blood, and she actually gains health for doing this. It's not a lot, but it's not a tiny amount either, and it can actually make the difference between winning and dropping a round. So when you're mixing throws with Eliza, I recommend mixing the 1+2 with the 1, and then the 2 throw is amazing just because it has one of my favorite throw animations ever in Tekken. It's so cool looking. She stabs her finger into your chest, pulls it out, and then runs through you like lightning fast. I think it looks amazing. But apart from that, the only other reason to use it is because it is a 2 throw. It will reverse the positioning, so if you want to throw to get away from the wall, it's a good option for that. The other thing I want to talk about briefly in this section is full crouch, because you don't really have a full crouch mix-up per se. It's not super powerful, it's not a core strategy of the character, but you can work with full crouch, and you do spend a lot of time down there because your down jabs are amazing, and your down 4 and your down 3, your main lows are full crouch moves as well as standing moves, right? So the main low is down 4 because of its counter hit property. It's just 17 damage, decent range and tracking normally, but it is launch punishable, and you can't sleep if you hold down for an extended period of time. You can get some meter, it's not really used. But you do have an amazing, amazing mid to mix in when you're working off a full crouch, and it's while standing too. This move is amazing. Your other moves, like your while standing 1 is a launcher, you cancel it into DP1. Your while standing 4 is bog standard, not very impressive. Your while standing 3 is the powerful launcher, but the 2 is great. This is safe in the new season, so you can't get punished for using it. If you get a hit, you get a weird nosebleed sort of knockdown, but if you counter hit with this, it's a full launch. So it's an amazing mid, you know, knockdown on hit, counter hit launch, safe on block, just very, very reliable, good range, and it honestly also has some pretty decent tracking. And so when I'm doing down force, for example, and I'm down here and the opponent starts walking, if I come up with this, it's almost homing sometimes just how good the tracking properties are, and you can get serious powerful launches because they're stepping into some sort of attack, trying to whiff punish you. You know, like how a lot of people, when they get hit by a low poke, they like to step into a whiff punish, and you're going to counter that, counter hit that a lot of the time with this while standing too. So very good for that. But those are just two little things that I didn't have you know, space to put anywhere else, and I just wanted to talk about them for the sake of being thorough. I'm going to make another cut. Okay, let's get you some combos. I think this section is going to be a lot of fun. I just want to say here at the beginning that you have a lot of space to get creative with your combos with Eliza, and you can do some pretty crazy stuff if you're willing to add stuff like instant dive kicks or a lot of dash jabs, or maybe EX Moonglide to extend the ender and so on. But you don't have to. While her combos will always require an element of execution, I can teach you some simple enough stuff here that is good enough that you can use it at any level of competition. So don't be intimidated by the character. Try to learn something that you're comfortable with, and then if you want to add more stuff later, that's sort of up to you. But I want to start with down for 2-3, which is your sort of most standard Tekken launcher, and it's important because it's the combo that you're going to use off of stuff like back 4 DP1 cancel, counter it while standing 2, counter it back 1-2, or just the 2 part of that string by itself. So these are the standard combos for most of your normal launchers. The basic one that you usually start with that is good, I use it a lot at the level I play at right now as well. It just looks like this. I'm going to do the combo first and then talk through the individual parts, okay? So it looks like this. And so all that is I launch the opponent, I do back 2-3 for a filler string twice, and then I spin with back 4 quarter circle back 1, which is a spin move. It's your preferred spin move with the character. It's a special cancel. And then after the spin, I do forward 4 to do a Moonglide, and I do Moonglide 3-4 for the ender. So let's show that one more time. Easy enough to do, decent carry, a pretty good carry actually, and decent enough damage. There's another version of this combo that I do a lot lately that I like because it's a little bit more stylish, a little bit more fun to do. You get an extra point of damage. Doesn't carry quite as far, but it's more convertible, so I like that about it, and it looks like this. So all I'm doing here is I'm launching the opponent the same, and I'm doing the same back 2-3 in the beginning. But after the first back 2-3, I spin right away with back 4 quarter circle back 1. And then you have to do an instant while running slash kick 3. It doesn't have to be a true instant while running. You can do it by doing forward, forward, forward 3. So tapping forward 3 times and then pressing the button. You don't have enough space here to actually start running with the character like this and then doing the 3. You have to do a triple tap, but it doesn't have to be a true, you know, on a dime instant while running. So it's easy enough to do with a bit of practice. And then after that I do back 4, and then you can cancel that into the special of your choice. I did a DP2 because it's cool, you know, it does a good damage. And it gives good carry, but you have a couple of other options here. For example, you can do this. which is just 4 cancel into quarter circle back 1, and you can tell that it does the exact same damage, and it sends the opponent not as high but further away. And you can also cancel into a fireball 2 right there, which will do the same damage again, but it's obviously not as good for the wall. But if you're on a wall-less stage like we are right now, you can use that instead. And then a final option I want to show you for these launchers for a combo. It's not something I use, but it is an option that you have, so I thought I should show it to be you know, thorough. Looks like this. And that timing is a little bit strict, but if you can get it, you can tell that you get 62, which is the highest damage combo I've shown you so far. So all I'm doing here is the same back 2-3 twice for filler, and then I do a single 1 jab into a very fast 4-4-3-4, and that needs to be pretty clutch, but if you get it, then you can do a Moonglide 3-4 for the ender for really good damage and carry. So that's another option that you have. But like I say, it's the same combo off of this launcher, the DP1s, whether you cancel into them off of back 4 or while standing 1, and the counter it while standing 2, which are all important moves. So it's important to find an option here that you're comfortable with, that you like, that you think is fun, and that you feel like you can perform without dropping it, practicing it and getting it into your muscle memory, and then that's going to do you solid. Next, I think we should talk about 4-4-3-4. Just by itself as a launcher, I think it might be the launcher that you connect with the most with the character, and it doesn't usually lead to full combo damage, but it can, and I'm going to teach you how to do that as well. But for now, the super simple combo that you usually start with when you use this launcher is this. Super simple, 50 damage, which is average for this launcher. It's not that bad at all. And so all I'm doing is I launch, and then I do Moonglide 1 and a 1 jab, Moonglide 1 and a 1 jab again, and then I end with Moonglide 1-2, 1+2, which is that string. And that's good enough, but it doesn't work on small targets like Xiaoyu. The final part, the Moonglide 1-2, 1+2, will drop on tiny targets, and so you can convert that with just another 4-4-3-4 for the ender, but that's kind of low on damage. I'm going to give you another option here that I think is good if you're looking for specifically damage that works on all size targets, and it looks like this. That's 53, so you can see that's higher, it's solid, and it's involving, you know, the same instant while running 3, the slash kick that I showed you in the earlier combos. And this is something that you do with a lot of Eliza's combos that spin on the first hit. For example, EX Divekick or countered standing 4. So again, just an instant slash kick, and then that string ender is back 1, 2, 4. So that's pretty cool. You can do stuff if you want to, like jump in and start doing dive kicks here, and then, you know, instant dive kick and start dash jabbing, which can give you very good damage and carry, but I think that's a little bit too finicky to do in live matches a lot. I don't like to drop combos, obviously, but it's up to you if it's something you want to practice. And then I told you I was going to show you an option to get full combo damage off of this. It's going to require an EX Moonglide for an extension, but if you do that, you can do this. And so that's going to require a bar of meter, of course, to perform, but if you're willing to use it, you can get 60 damage here, which is cool. And so if you feel like you don't want to spend that bar on something else, you want to conserve it, or you really need that damage maybe to kill the opponent, this is something you can do. And all it is, it's not as, I mean, it might look a little bit advanced, but it's not really. All you do is the same running 3, and then I do back 4, and then forward 3+4 to cancel into EX Moonglide, and then I do the same ender that you've seen a couple of times already, Moonglide 1, 1 jab, and then Moonglide 1-2, 1+2. So you can use your EX Moonglide to get full combo damage here, and if you find that back 4 a little bit finicky, you can substitute it for a down 3 into forward 3+4 for the EX Moonglide. Slightly easier to do, but slightly lower damage. Okay, I think next I want to teach you some super combos and then some counter hits. So for the super, I mean, I've probably mentioned it in other sections by this point, but you usually cancel into your DP2 off of either a 1 jab or a down 3 or maybe a 2-2. And when you do, and you have 2 meter bars, 2 blood meters, you can use your bloody horn to turn it into a full combo, and you can do some pretty cool stuff here. I've gotten some questions about like how do I stick the super, how do I get it out, and you can look at my command history there and see that I actually double tap the 1+2, but you don't have to. It's not hard to do. You have a lot of time during the DP2 to get this input out, so you don't have to stress it at all. And I just, because I play on a pad right now, I just roll my thumb over the down, forward, you know, the double quarter circle. And then I press 1+2, and you can press 1+2 quite early, and it's going to work just fine, but you can be late as well. You're actually really free with how you do this here, so just do it in practice mode a couple of times, and this is something that is going to sink in quite quickly. And then the combo I like to do, you can do this. Or you can convert that in the same way as you did off of this launcher that I showed you in the beginning, kind of like this. And you can see right there that in this case I actually have the option of using a quarter circle back 2 for the special ender. That doesn't work in those earlier combos because it doesn't have enough range, but it does work here, and I like it because this will send them more, you know, upwards and forwards, so it's perfect for wall conversions, and it's better than this move here, but you can use that as well, or DP2 if you want to. So those are some basic things you can do for the super combo. The spin I'm doing after the actual Bloody Horn, by the way, it's just a quarter circle back 1. That has a little bit of timing to it, but it's easy enough to get down. You have the option of delaying that and doing... if you don't want to do that spin move, you can delay the spin a little bit and do back 3-1 for a spin. But I don't use that, but it's an option you have. You can also get a 4-4-3-4 for a spin here if you prefer that. So like I say, you have a lot of room to get creative, but the quarter circle back 1 is what I recommend because I find it the most consistent. Okay, let's turn on manual counter hit and give you some counter hit combos. I'm going to start with the standing 4. And the standing 4 is the same combo as, you know, off of this launcher and the 4-4-3-4. Just a instant slash kick into this string, and that's going to give you 60 damage, which is good considering the fact that this is a one-hit move that, you know, spins on the first hit. I think that's really quite solid. If you want to carry this away and carry the opponent towards the wall, you can start doing these, or I mean, you can of course do one of these and then start dash jabbing if you want to do that instead. So when you hit with this, if you just want the damage and you're not looking to do anything fancy, then, you know, do this and collect the damage, the slash kick into the string. There it is. But if you want to convert it somehow, or, you know, start carrying, then maybe do a Moonglide 1 and then get creative from there. And then the other important counter hits you have are quarter circle back 1 and quarter circle back 2. They actually have counter launch properties. The 1 is going to be the exact same thing as the 4, and the 2, it's going to be the same thing, but you have to modify the spin. So you do this. And so the spin move I use here is just a down 3, and I cancel that into a quarter circle back 1, and then I do the same combo as I did off of the other launchers. The final important counter hit move that you have is the down 4, and this is the combo I did in the beginning where you can do, you know, instant dive kicks if you want to. But there's a super solid combo you can do where you don't have to, which looks like this. Oh, sorry, that doesn't work. I've been doing that string too many times. There we go. So what I'm doing here is launching with a down 4, and then I'm doing while standing 4. All you have to do is press 4 because you're already recovering from crouch after this down 4. And then I press back 4, and then you spin with a quarter circle back 1. And then it's up to you what you do from there. You can do the slash kick and then back 4 into a special, or you can do this. Similar damage, similar properties, good carry. Another combo that you see a lot of people do here is they like to do a while standing 2 right after. And then they spin with this. The reason I don't use that is it's slightly lower damage. I'll do it every once in a while. I think it's cool enough. But you get 1 point less damage. But it works absolutely fine. So those are some standard combos off of your most important launchers. I think I covered everything that I think is important in this section. I mean, apart from maybe, you know, jump ins and stuff like that, but that's a little bit more fringe and maybe covered in another section. And of course, wall conversions with examples and actual wall combos we're going to do in the wall section, which I think I'm going to do next. But thank you so much for watching this combo section. I hope it made sense, and I'll see you guys in the next bit. Okay, now we're going to talk about walls, and this is so fun because Eliza is actually a little bit of a wall specialist. You might come across with her long-range moves and her fireballs as someone who thrives in a wall-less environment, but she actually loves to work off the wall, and it's one of the few places where she can get some really standout high damage. I think I want to start by talking about how to convert to the wall when you're already doing a combo. And so the main ways you do that is, well, let's start by launching the opponent and showing you a couple of options. One thing you can do is cancel down 3 into a DP2, and that is one of your best wall conversion tools overall. It sends the opponent really high and really quite far, and so anytime you can get it, it's going to give you plenty of time to run up and then apply your full wall combo. Now you can do this after a spin, so if I just launch the opponent like this, I can then run up and do the down 3 into a DP2, and that's going to work just fine. Or you can actually do it off of dash jabs the way I did there in the beginning. So if I'm dash jabbing forwards with the character, at any point I can do another dash into a down 3 and cancel that into a DP2 for a strong wall conversion. Another really good tool for converting to the wall that I should use a lot more that I don't is back 3-4. You can tell that that actually sends them at a really nice angle, and it's especially useful after a spin, but you can use it after, for example, a jab like that, provided that you haven't done, you know, too many hits and it's going to whiff. So that's another really good tool for that. And then if you have maximum range and you launch the opponent and you use this for your ender, sometimes that will actually send them just perfectly in for a wall splat. And so if you have the sense that the range is right for that, you can use this for your ender, maybe about this range. And then you can see you can actually turn that into a wall combo as well. So I think those are the 3 main ways you convert to the wall with this character. And then when you're actually there, you have a couple of different options for your wall combo. But before I show you the actual wall combo, let's talk about how Eliza likes to splat the opponent when she's at the wall. The main tool here, and the one that is super scary that people are looking out for all the time, is of course clean it down 3, quarter circle back 1+2, because it's an unsee below. It impacts at 15 frames and it's a 40 damage wall splat, which is insanely powerful. However, I have to tell you that when you're at the wall with this character, people are so scared of this move that they're almost constantly attempting that low parry, especially if you try and do, like, because the obvious setup, right, is doing something into a dive kick 4, maybe an instant dive kick 4, and then going straight into that, working off of the advantage of the dive kick. But after you do this into a dive kick 4, like, good players on slightly higher ranks will parry like 80% of the time, which means that if you do this dive kick and then just go into some powerful mids, that's going to connect a lot right here, because they are pressing down forward looking for that low. But as long as you mix the low with some mids, holy god is it powerful. I mean, 15 frame unsee below, 40 damage on the splat, and then a full wall combo on top of that. It's the main reason she's so good at the wall. It's absolutely fantastic. But you have a couple of other options. Your ass will wall splat them, and that's fast. You know, it's a Punisher, which you can use. And then the Bloody Claw is amazing, especially if you're coming in from a range, especially if you want to, you know, close the gap. Just make sure you hold back so that you don't get that you know, dangerous sleep, because then you're going to drop your wall combo. Your wall bounce is the EX version of the Bloody Claw, which you're only really going to do when you go into it off of EX Fireball, or this string into EX Fireball. But that's your wall bounce move, and I mean, you can do it off of a normal cancel like that if you want to, and you're still going to get your wall bounce. And then what I do to convert them back to the wall, or splat them back to the wall after the bounce, is I just do a standing 4. It's reliable, it's high damage, and then I do my normal wall combo after that. So those are a couple of recommendations for powerful wall splat moves. I guess the final one I should mention is down forward 3, you know, your homing move, the homing low crushing move that is very good for specifically Oki. So you knock them down at the wall. If you think they're going to get up stupid by attacking or something like that, go over a get up kick or something and splat them with this, and then again you have access to your wall combo. So beautiful, beautiful stuff, and she's very good at the wall. Now let's talk about the actual wall combo itself. The standard one that you will see most Eliza players use most of the time looks like this. Let's just use 4 for our splatting move for these examples. And so what I'm doing here is I'm doing a back 4, and then I'm cancelling that into a quarter circle back 4, which is the dive kick 4. And then when the dive kick 4 comes down, I do the back 4 again, but this time I cancel it into a quarter circle back 2, which was buffed in the new season, making it your preferred option for damage in this combo. So it looks like that. Thing you can do here, because that wall combo does take a little bit of practice. I remember when I was completely new to it, I thought it was quite finicky. You can actually convert the ender by doing a back 3-4 instead. So that's going to look like this. And you get very similar damage. You get the 60% scaling on that final hit. I think you lose 1 point of damage, which isn't that much. And this is nice and consistent, provided that you have a good angle. If you're a little bit to the side, this back 3-4 will start whiffing, which can be annoying, so just be aware of that. But if you want, a starter friendly version of that combo, that's something that you can use, and you're only going to lose out on a single point of damage for doing that. Another option that you have for the wall combo is you can crouch into a while standing 4 into back 1-2-4 like this. And that is very angle dependent, but when you get that right, it is actually your highest damage option. The back 1-4 by itself works most of the time. It's slightly less damage than your normal wall combo if it doesn't have that while standing 4, this move in there. But this is very angle dependent. And sometimes I go for this and I just regret it because it's super inconsistent. But when you know that you have a good angle on the wall and you feel like you're pretty much 90 degrees, doing this while standing 4 into this is really good damage. And if you have that angle, it is actually consistent. So that's another wall combo to be aware of. And that's pretty much going to wrap up your wall game with Eliza. She's very, 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 very good at the wall. She's good at converting to it, and she likes to be at the wall. So when you're applying your 4-4-3-4 from a range, you're going in with maybe dash jabs or moonglides. Your main sort of strategy is not trying to get as much damage as possible. It's trying to come up with a creative way to create a good wall spot and then getting your actual wall combo, because that's where a lot of your stopping power is. And then when they get back up, you have this completely terrifying low for the mix-up, and you can reset them at the wall. If you manage to do that, you're usually taking the round. So she's a wall specialist. She's very good. And also, one thing I should mention, when you are at the wall, because you struggle to get a down 3 DP2, let's go back to the wall and talk about this briefly. This thing is hard to get in the open because the clean hit range can be difficult to get. When you're at the wall prevents the opponent from dashing backwards, and so it makes the clean hit down 3 a lot more consistent and easy to get, which makes the DP a good option. But of course, if you have the bar, also makes that a good option, or maybe even an EXDP if you want to go balls to the wall and get a nice 44 damage plus the extra 1 there for the wall spot damage for 45. So that's some wall game for you with Eliza. I'm going to make another cut. Thank you so very much for watching so far. I hope you're enjoying it. I want to tie everything we've learned together in a section on general strategy, as well as give you my conclusions on the character. So in conclusion, Eliza is a little bit of a ranged specialist, and that means that you're going to start the round off backdashing most of the time, trying to get to your most comfortable range where you can throw fireballs as well as threaten the opponent with forward 3-4. These moves have important synergy because the fireball is what's going to make them walk to the sides, and when they do, because the 4-4-3-4 is a homing launcher, it's going to launch them when they do that. It's also important to try and interrupt or whiff punish the opponent with this move. And so you're going to have to try and work up a feel for when they're going to get itchy and when they're going to swing. When you hit with the 4-4-3-4, your main strategy should not be to get as much damage as possible, but to carry the opponent towards the wall, positioning yourself towards the corners, or maybe even wall splatting them for a wall combo, because Eliza does not get a lot of damage off of most of her stuff in the open, but she is able to mix the opponent up for very, very high damage at the wall, and it's an environment that she likes to be in. So if you have to sacrifice combo damage for positioning or wall splats, it's something that I recommend that you do. As you play Eliza, the other core strategy of the character is you're going to have to work with your blood meter and your bar. You can use 1 bar on an EX move, or you can save up 2 bars and use a super. If you're going to spend 1 bar, there are a couple of ways I recommend that you do it. It's normally because you see a golden opportunity to capitalize on an EX move. For example, if you're at the wall, and this is one of the more important ones, you are going to want to spend 1 bar on clean it down 3, quarter circle back 1+2 for a very high damage 40 damage wall splat into a full wall combo. So that's one of those golden opportunities. Another one is if you're being pressured really heavily by the opponent and you really want to escape that, you can use an EXDP to become invulnerable and create space for yourself. The other one that I really recommend that you try is forward 4-2 and cancelling that into EX Fireball. Any part of this string connecting with the opponent will cause them to get launched and give you a full combo, and even if they block it, the EX Moonglide that comes off of the EX Fireball here will give you a full Moonglide mix-up. If that mix-up happens to occur anywhere near the wall, the EX Moonglide has your wall bounce move, the EX Moonglide version of the Bloody Claw, and then you can mix that with your Moonglide for really, really powerful mix-ups at the wall. So one of my preferred strategies for applying meter when you only have 1 is actually just fishing for launches with this string. It's very, very powerful. As you're playing the character, you're trying to create space, you're throwing fireballs, you're throwing this move looking for hits, being careful not to be too obvious and getting ducked, and that's an important part about this move. You want to mix it with the Bloody Claw, and you want to have a healthy amount of Bloody Claws in there for an interruption tool, a gap closer, and a mid mix-up for your 4-4-3-4. But as you're doing that, if you don't find one of those opportunities for spending a bar on one of the EX moves I mentioned, you're eventually going to accumulate double bars. And when you get double bars, your thinking and your strategy should shift with the character, because you now have the potential of turning a DP2 into a full launch with the character, mainly by using clean hit down 3 into a DP2 cancel and then turning that into a combo. But also, if your opponent allows you to block something that you can punish, if you block something that is -10, 11, 12 or 13, you're going to want to do a 1 jab into a DP2 and then using the Bloody Horn for your combo. If you block something that is 14, you can use the 2-2 instead, like this, and that's going to give you even more damage. So that's a wrap up of how this character strategizes. Sort of 2 things that you have to consider: your range, your fireballs, this move and how to mix it with a Bloody Claw, and then sort of in the background what is constantly happening in your mind is your strategy, where you're thinking about your meter and how you want to spend it, whether or not you want to conserve it and go for a super, whether or not you want to use it on an EX move to try and get some damage. So I think this character is extremely, extremely fun to play, and I just want to thank everybody who came to this guide to watch it. I know she's not one of the more popular characters in the game, but that's another reason why I really want to make this. It is as much my instructions for how the character is played as it is my petition for more people to play her and for this character to be carried forward. I think while she is one of the more advanced characters in the game, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time in practice mode, when things come together with this character, not only does everything look amazing, it feels amazing. It is so extremely rewarding, and it has made her potentially my most favorite character to play in the entire game right now. So I really hope you enjoy the guide. I am so very grateful that you keep showing up for my videos. I am celebrating 2 years on YouTube this month actually, and so that's the reason I wanted to put a little bit more effort into making something special for you. It's been an amazing little journey for me, and it blows my mind every day when I wake up and realize that I have a YouTube channel where I get to talk about Tekken. I read my comments. You guys are always extremely helpful, or extremely funny, and so it's just a joy to interact with you on the channel. I'm sorry I'm a little bit of a recluse in the sense that I don't have, you know, a Twitter account, and I don't, you know, put my face out there all that often or talk about myself, but it's just not the kind of person that I want to be. So the fact that I only have the YouTube channel and people still choose to come to it and interact with me is honestly amazing enough that it makes me emotional a lot of the time. So in conclusion, thank you so very much. I really hope you enjoy Eliza and that you give her a shot, and I hope this guide was useful and that I didn't make too many mistakes in it. Thank you so very much. I'll see you guys in the next video, which should hopefully be up sooner rather than later. Bye bye for now.